Darklings, lightlings, hybrids, and everyone in between, how are you today? I hope you are well. I'm really excited to present to you something new that I have been playing around with in my head for a while now, and that is a series called What If? This is where we talk about and explore really strange topics and strange theories and bizarre stuff that are out there in our world, and we try to bring a bit of the spiritual into it and see if it can fit for some answers that we witches all know to be a reality for us. We're going to start this off with the simulation theory. I hope you enjoy this, and I hope it gets you thinking a little bit, right? Anyway, it is for entertainment. It isn't fully like what I might personally believe. We are just exploring in this series, and I'm going to present to you some stuff to make you kind of go, ooh, maybe give you a little bit of chills, maybe a little bit of thoughts. And yeah, let's get into it. Let's have some fun. You all know I love the strange and unusual. We live in a world where we co-create worlds so vivid and realistic, worlds that we can control, worlds where the characters are on a fated path, but their will of choices is determined by us, the player. In these worlds, like a video game, there's usually a story and set path. The players navigate the character by choice. The character is programmed to think, to feel, and to react to the setting around them. What if our creator is playing us? What if what we call our higher self is the player of us in a simulated game? Like our game characters, we are given the illusion of free will, but really we're being played by a more advanced version of ourselves for a huge experience to further advance our souls, or even being replayed by future beings as a simulation so they can glimpse the past and see where humanity went wrong at one point. Science still struggles to understand and explain our reality around us. Nick Bostrom sent questions and shockwaves through our mainstream beliefs and challenged things like religion and our everyday world around us with his idea that reality is a simulation of an advanced civilization. Since his idea was proposed, many have become obsessed with this idea, and scientists were employed to research this idea by a few billionaires that funded the research. When they did, they set out to prove that this was absurd and ridiculous, but their findings only started to prove the latter. They began getting results that only point to an almost certainty that we are in fact in a simulation. Elon Musk even states that the probability that we are in base reality is 1 in billions. Base reality is real reality, or the start. Say you create a video game, then those characters play a game. Then those players play a game, and so forth, thus creating many simulations, and all are programmed to think and feel as they are real. As our technology and computers advance, so does our ability to create realistic worlds. We're only going to improve one day, and it may become so real that we won't be able to tell the difference between games and the real world. Put this info with other scientific findings, such as the fact that we cannot perceive all of the real reality due to the amount of light that we can take in our eyes, or we don't even know what dark matter or dark energy is, or even videos circulating online of glitches in the Matrix. Add to that things like the Mandela effect and much, much more. It is hard to assume that it isn't possible that we live in a simulation. Can we be living in a simulation made by our ancestors? Or by us if we incarnated, or in gaming terms, respawned in this world? There are even theories out there that are pretty convincing that due to things like the multiverse and time not really existing, that we've actually died a few times in one lifetime and respawned into another. Could this be why the ancients studied the sky and practiced certain things to see beyond the simulation? So, certain ideas or theories that I have personally is 1. We did create it as a school for our further advancement. Putting workings like Dolores Cannon with this theory can bring a spiritual aspect to it and fit it to make sense. If Earth is a school, the simulation would be part of the curriculum to help us play the game to level up. My next thought and idea is the Gnostics. They believed that a lesser God, Yahweh, who believed he was God of all things, the God of the Bible, he created this world and reality as a matrix system to keep souls trapped. My next idea is that advanced beings did in fact create it to look back on older civilizations, to look back at us. I tend to sway towards the first one. It would make sense to me. But option 2 is freaky to think about. And it's so freaky because there are things that could make you question option 2, being trapped here by a lesser god, because it does seem almost like every time civilizations advance technologically to a certain point, they end. Why is that? It almost reminds me of the symbolical story of the Tower of Babel. Something more advanced than us doesn't want us to become as powerful as them. The Fermi paradox explains that the universe around us seems empty and lonely, which is another argument towards it being a simulation. Perhaps, though, the dimensions are all levels of simulations, like we described earlier with the base reality, and then you create another and another inside of another. And we in the spiritual community reach out and know and connect to more than what the eye can see. So we know that the universe isn't empty, which is why I believe if we are in a simulation, our spiritual being had to have had a co-hand in creating it for our advancement. Does tools we use like tarot and astrology and numerology all help us connect to more than this simulation? Are they like cheat codes that help us navigate it, that help us on our paths and journey in this for our advancement? It's all really, really interesting and cool to think about. Our brains operate like computers. Our body stores data in our DNA. Everything in the universe and the language of the universe is mathematical. When you really look at it, it doesn't seem that absurd. When I learned about this and had this revelation, it's actually a funny story. I used to play The Sims, and I would think of ways that I could create a story or scenario, and I had the vampire pack. And I used to have my vampires keep humans in the basement to feed off of and all of this stuff and create like a movie type thing. And it was pretty cruel, actually. But when I thought about this, I stopped doing that. What if they can feel all of that in their simulation? The Sims are programmed to feel emotion, to get hungry, to navigate and feel all of this human stuff. So what if? It's really, really freaky to think about, right? That for them in that moment, those vampires were real, and they truly were terrified and feeling the emotions of it. What do you think about this theory? Do you think it's absurd? Or have you seen enough to question, to wonder, and to think of all the possibilities? Can my Harley Quinn character that I am playing right now actually feel? Does she think this world she's in right now is real? That she's truly fighting for her life in a Hunger Games type scenario or situation? Does she even know that I'm playing her? Does she think it's really her or them right now? Is this her world where you could just build and it's just a reality, so it isn't absurd? Though to us, if we could just pull blocks out of our side and build, or weapons, and it would sound kind of crazy. But to this character, it's just normal. It's their reality. So think about how we have a hard time believing in certain things. Is that because we're not programmed to in our reality? Do witches and people that are spiritual and connect to things outside of what we're programmed to believe tap into something higher, like base reality? And why is it that we are programmed from birth for certain things? What do the powers that be know about this? Because it sure seems to me like they do a lot of programming. They sway us, persuade us. Really think about it. Kind of gives me the shivers and chills, right? Imagine, just imagine. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope it got you thinking, or at the very least gave you a little chill. I'll see you next time.